I woke up from surgery to my best friend Ruby standing over my hospital bed with tears in her eyes. "Max, honey, I need to tell you something." My throat was dry from the breathing tube. My stomach ached. "What's wrong?" "While you were in surgery, a realtor called your phone." The nurse answered. "He said he was calling to confirm the closing on your house." I stared at her, confused. "What closing? I'm not selling my house." That's what the nurse told him. But he insisted. Said he had a signed contract. Said you'd agreed to sell for $425,000. My heart started racing. The monitors started beeping. "That's impossible. I never signed anything." Ruby pulled out her phone and showed me a document. There was my signature. On a contract to sell my house at 1247 Peachtree Street. The house I'd worked 40 years to own. "I didn't sign this," I said. "Ruby, I swear I didn't sign this." "I know you didn't. But someone did." "Crystal. Your daughter-in-law?" "Brandon gave her power of attorney. Just temporary," he said. "Just in case something happened during surgery." "Oh, Max. She sold my house. While I was unconscious on an operating table, that woman sold my house out from under me." The machines were beeping louder. A nurse rushed in. "Mrs. Carter, you need to calm down. Your blood pressure is spiking." "My house! Someone sold my house." "Ma'am, you just had surgery." "I can't rest. That woman stole my house." The nurse injected something into my IV. Everything got fuzzy. "Ruby, don't let them close. Don't let them—" Everything went black. "My name is Maxine Carter. Everyone calls me Max. I'm 62 years old. Worked as a nurse for 40 years. In 1995, my husband Jerome and I bought a house in East Atlanta. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a yard. Jerome died 8 years ago. Heart attack. But the house was paid off. In my name. Just my name. It was all I had left. My security. My home. 3 years ago, Brandon married Crystal, a real estate agent. Beautiful. Charming. Ambitious. I'd had doubts from the start, the way she looked at my house, asked about the deed, the property value. But Brandon loved her, and I wanted my son happy. So I welcomed her. Big mistake. 2 weeks ago, severe pain, emergency room, gallstones, surgery needed immediately. Brandon came, brought Crystal. "Mom, you should give one of us power of attorney. Just temporarily. Just in case." "In case of what?" "In case something goes wrong during surgery, someone needs to handle your affairs." Made sense. "Okay, you can have it." "Actually," Crystal said, "it should be me. I'm a real estate agent. I understand legal documents. Brandon needs to focus on you, not paperwork." Brandon nodded. "She's right, Mom." So I signed. Temporary medical and financial power of attorney for Crystal Morgan Carter. For use only during surgical recovery. I never imagined she'd use it to sell my house. When I woke up again, Ruby was still there. "The realtor's holding off on closing for now. But Max, there's a signed contract. This is legally complicated." "I need a lawyer." I called one, Cecilia Hamilton. "She's coming tomorrow." "Where's Brandon?" Ruby's face darkened. "I called him 6 times. He's not answering." "Crystal." Straight to voicemail. Of course, they knew. They both knew what they'd done. That night, I lay staring at the ceiling. My house. The house Jerome and I saved for. The house where I'd raised Brandon. Where Jerome had died in my arms. And Crystal had sold it, while I was unconscious. She'd stolen 40 years of my life with one forged signature. But she'd made a mistake, because I wasn't dead. I wasn't incapacitated. I wasn't helpless. I was Maxine Carter. I'd survived being a black nurse in the South for 40 years. I'd survived losing my husband. And I was going to survive this. I was going to get my house back and make sure Crystal paid. Because you don't steal from a woman who spent her whole life fighting. You just don't. To understand how Crystal got close enough to steal my house, you need to understand how she joined our family. Brandon met Crystal 3 years ago at an open house. He called that night, excited. "Mom, I met someone. Beautiful, smart, successful. When do I get to meet her?" "Soon." 6 months later, he brought her to Sunday dinner. Crystal arrived in a designer dress, expensive jewelry, smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mrs. Carter, wonderful to finally meet you. Call me Max." Max, strong name for a strong woman. Over dinner, she asked, "Brandon tells me you own your home? Outright?" The question caught me off guard. "Yes." "That's so smart. Real estate is wealth. You must have significant equity." After dinner, I pulled Brandon aside. "Why is she so interested in my house?" "She's not. She's interested in real estate. It's her job." She asked specific questions about my equity. "She's impressed. It's a compliment." Maybe I was paranoid. 6 months later, they were engaged. That's fast. When you know, you know. Why wait? They married. Small ceremony. I smiled in photos, welcomed Crystal, and tried to ignore how she looked at my house. The questions started slowly. "Max, have you thought about downsizing? This is big for one person." "I like the space." "But maintenance? Older homes are expensive." "I manage." "What about property taxes?" Then suggestions. "If you ever wanted to sell, I could get you top dollar." "I'm not selling." "Not now, but maybe when you're ready for a retirement community." "I'm 62, not 92. Brandon always defended her. "She's trying to help. She sees elderly people get taken advantage of." "I'm not elderly." Crystal started bringing paperwork to dinners. "Max, this program helps seniors with property tax relief." "I pay my taxes." "Why pay full price if you don't have to?" "Another time. You should get your house appraised." "I know what it's worth. But what if you needed to take out equity for emergencies?" "I have insurance and savings." Always helping, always concerned, always circling. A year into marriage, Crystal showed up with papers. "Max, sign this. Updating emergency contacts." Seemed reasonable. I signed. Later, I found out it gave Crystal access to my medical records. "Brandon, why?" "Mom, it's in case something happens. We need to talk to your doctors." "What if you're unconscious? We need to advocate." Crystal started visiting weekly, bringing groceries, helping with yard work, and asking questions. "Where do you keep important documents?" "Filing cabinet." "Your deed, insurance, will?" "Same place." "Can I see your will? Make sure everything's in order?" "That's private. I'm family, I'm helping." It felt like surveillance. Ruby said, "That girl's up to something. She's got her eye on that house." Brandon wouldn't let her. Brandon does whatever Crystal says. True. In 3 years, I'd watched my son change. He used to visit twice a week, now once a month. He used to call every Sunday. Now I called him. Every decision went through Crystal. "Can't come to Thanksgiving." Crystal's family. "Can't help you move furniture." Crystal needs me. My son was slipping away. 2 months ago, things escalated. Crystal called. "Max, we need to talk." They arrived looking serious. "Mom, your health isn't great. More problems, more doctor visits." "I'm fine." "You're not," Crystal said. "High blood pressure, gallstones, who knows what's next?" "What's your point?" Brandon pulled out papers. "We want you to sign a living trust. Put your assets in trust with me as trustee." "Why?" "Estate planning. When you die, everything transfers smoothly without probate." "When I die?" "I'm not dying." I looked at the papers. Living trust. Brandon as trustee and beneficiary. If I signed, Brandon would control everything, including my house. "I'm not signing." "Mom, please, it's for your protection." "Protection from what?" Crystal. "From the state, creditors, anyone who might take advantage." "Nobody's trying to take advantage." "Not now." "But what if you get dementia? Someone could swoop in and take everything." "Someone like you?" Crystal's face went hard. "That's not fair." "Isn't it? You've been circling my house like a vulture since we met." "I'm trying to help." "By taking control of my assets?" Brandon stood. "Mom, that's enough. You're being paranoid." "Am I?" They left angry. Brandon didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. I thought I'd won. But Crystal was just starting. She started befriending my neighbors, planting seeds. How is Max? She seems to be declining. Have you noticed her forgetting things? I'm worried about her living alone. Ruby heard it. Max, people are talking. Crystal's making people doubt you. Why? She wants that house. She's setting up her play. Then came the gallstones. Severe pain. Emergency room. Surgery needed. Brandon and Crystal showed up. Mom, we're worried. It's just gallstones. Routine surgery. Still, you're going under anesthesia. Anything could happen. That's when they asked for power of attorney. And I, in pain and scared, signed it. Just temporary, Crystal said. Just for recovery. Just in case. I trusted my son. And his wife. That was my mistake. Because 48 hours later, while I was unconscious having surgery, Crystal was signing papers to sell my house. She'd been planning it for months, maybe years. The living trust was her first attempt. When that failed, she waited. When I got sick, she saw her chance. My emergency became her opportunity. My vulnerability became her weapon. But she underestimated one thing. I might have been weak, but I wasn't defeated. And I was about to show her what happens when you steal from a woman who's fought her whole life. The morning of my surgery, I was scared. Not of the surgery itself. Gallbladder removal is routine. Thousands of people have it done every day. I was scared because I'd be completely vulnerable, unconscious, at the mercy of doctors and anesthesia and chance. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I was scared because I'd given Crystal power of attorney. But I pushed that thought away. She was family. Brandon's wife. She wouldn't do anything to hurt me. Right? Brandon arrived at the hospital at 6 a.m., alone. Where's Crystal? I asked. She had an early showing. Important client. She'll come by later to check on you. An early showing? Brandon, I'm having surgery. I know, Mom. But this client is about to make an offer on $1 million property. Crystal can't miss it. Of course she couldn't. I was wheeled into pre-op at 7 a.m. The nurses were efficient and kind. They inserted my IV, took my vitals, explained what would happen. Any last questions, Mrs. Carter? How long will I be under? About an hour for the surgery, then another hour in recovery before you wake up fully. So you'll be out for roughly 2 hours total. 2 hours. That's all. 2 hours and I'd be awake and fine. What could possibly happen in 2 hours? Brandon held my hand as they wheeled me toward the operating room. I love you, Mom. You're going to be fine. I love you too, baby. See you when I wake up. The anesthesiologist placed a mask over my face. Count backward from 10, Mrs. Carter. 10, 9, 8, and then nothing. What I didn't know was what happened during those 2 hours. I didn't know that at 7:15 a.m., Crystal walked into a lawyer's office across town. I didn't know that she had my power of attorney document, freshly signed. I didn't know that she'd forged my signature on a sales contract 2 weeks earlier, while I was still having gallstone attacks but before I agreed to surgery. I didn't know that she'd been planning this for months. At 7:30 a.m., while I was unconscious on an operating table, Crystal signed papers transferring my house to a property developer named Marcus Reed. Sale price, $425,000. My house was worth $550,000. Crystal had undersold it by $125,000. Why? Because Marcus Reed was in a hurry. He wanted to buy 3 houses on my block, tear them down, and build condos. My house was the last piece he needed. Crystal had negotiated with him privately, told him she could get my house quickly if he paid cash and closed fast. Marcus agreed. He didn't ask too many questions. He saw a motivated seller and a good deal. At 8:20 a.m., the lawyer, a man named Donald Pierce, who did cheap, fast real estate closings, reviewed the documents. "This is your mother-in-law's house?" he asked Crystal. "Yes, she's elderly, having health problems. She asked me to handle the sale for her." "And you have power of attorney?" Crystal showed him the document. He glanced at it briefly. "This seems to be in order. Where is Mrs. Carter?" "She's in the hospital. Surgery this morning. That's why she asked me to handle this." "Is she of sound mind to make this decision?" "Absolutely. We discussed this months ago. She's ready to downsize, move into assisted living. This is what she wants. The lawyer should have called me, should have verified, should have insisted on speaking to me directly, but he didn't. Because Crystal was confident, professional, had all the paperwork. And because lawyers who do cheap, fast closings don't ask too many questions. At 8:15 a.m., while my surgeon was removing my gallbladder, the paperwork was notarized. At 8:30 a.m., while I was still under anesthesia, the sale was recorded. My house, the house I'd worked 40 years to own, was legally sold. And I had no idea. At 8:45 a.m., I was wheeled into recovery. At 9 a.m., I started waking up, groggy, confused, in pain. Brandon was there. "Mom, you're okay. Surgery went great." "Water," I managed to whisper. He gave me ice chips. I drifted in and out. At 9:15 a.m., my phone rang. It was in my purse, which was in the drawer of my hospital room. Brandon had stepped out to get coffee. I was alone with the recovery nurse, a young woman named Jennifer. The phone kept ringing, ringing, ringing. Jennifer finally said, "Ma'am, should I answer that? It might be important." I nodded weakly. Jennifer dug through my purse, found my phone, answered it. "Hello? Mrs. Carter's phone." "Oh, is Mrs. Carter available? This is Tom Bennett from Bennett Realty." "She's in recovery from surgery. Can I take a message?" "Surgery? Oh no. Is she okay?" "She's fine. Who did you say you were?" "Tom Bennett. I'm the listing agent for Mrs. Carter's property at 1247 Peachtree Street. I'm calling because the buyer wants to move up the closing date. Can we schedule for this Friday instead of next Monday?" Jennifer looked confused. "I'm sorry, what property?" "Mrs. Carter's house. We've had it under contract for 2 weeks. The buyer is eager to close." "Under contract? Are you sure you have the right person?" "Maxine Carter, 1247 Peachtree Street. That's her. But she never mentioned selling her house." "Are you sure?" Now Tom sounded confused. "Of course I'm sure. I have the signed listing agreement and sales contract right here. Can you hold on?" Jennifer came over to my bed. "Mrs. Carter, there's a realtor on the phone asking about selling your house." I blinked at her, still foggy from anesthesia. "What?" "A realtor. Says you're selling your house. Says there's a contract." My blood went cold. Even through the medication fog, I understood. "No," I whispered. "No, I'm not selling." Jennifer went back to the phone. "Sir, Mrs. Carter says she's not selling her house." "What? That's impossible." "I have a signed contract. She says she never signed anything." "Let me speak to her." Jennifer brought the phone to my bed, held it to my ear. "Mrs. Carter?" Tom's voice was concerned now. "This is Tom Bennett. I'm very confused. I have a listing agreement signed by you 2 weeks ago, and a sales contract signed last week. Are you saying you didn't sign these?" "Never signed," I managed to say. My throat was so dry. "Never talked to you. Mrs. Carter, this is very serious. If you didn't sign these documents, then someone forged your signature. That's fraud." Who brought you the documents?" "Your daughter-in-law, Crystal Carter. She said you'd asked her to handle the sale because of your health issues." "Crystal?" "Yes, she said you were moving into assisted living, that you wanted to sell quickly." "Not true. None of it. Crystal? She has power of attorney." "Power of attorney?" "Mrs. Carter, power of attorney doesn't give someone the right to sell your property without your explicit consent. That's not how it works." "Stop the sale," I whispered. "Please, stop it." "Mrs. Carter, I'm not sure I can. The paperwork was filed this morning. The sale might already be recorded." "This morning? During my surgery?" "Yes, I received the final documents about an hour ago. Crystal said you wanted to close while you were still in the hospital so you wouldn't have to deal with it." I started crying. The machine started beeping. Jennifer took the phone back. "Sir, she's very distressed. She just had surgery. Can you call back later?" "Wait. Tell her not to panic. I'm going to look into this. If there's fraud, we can reverse it. But she needs to get a lawyer. Right now." Jennifer hung up and looked at me with wide eyes. "Mrs. Carter, what's going on?" She sold my house, I sobbed. My daughter-in-law sold my house while I was unconscious. Oh my God. Jennifer immediately called for my doctor, and she called Brandon. Brandon arrived 10 minutes later, out of breath. Mom, what's wrong? The nurse said you were having a crisis. Where's Crystal? What? Where is Crystal right now? I don't know. At work, I guess. Why? She sold my house. While I was in surgery, she sold my house. Brandon's face went white. What are you talking about? A realtor just called, said Crystal brought him signed documents, said my house is under contract, that the sale was finalized this morning. That's impossible. Crystal wouldn't. Call her. Right now. Call her and ask her. Brandon pulled out his phone with shaking hands, dialed Crystal. It rang 4 times, then went to voicemail. He tried again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. She's not answering, he said. Because she knows. She knows what she did, and she's hiding. Mom, there has to be an explanation. The explanation is that your wife is a thief. She used the power of attorney I gave her to steal my house. She wouldn't do that. Then where is she? Why isn't she answering? Brandon had no answer. Jennifer spoke up. Mrs. Carter, you need to call a lawyer, right now. The realtor said if there's fraud, you might be able to reverse the sale, but you need to act fast. I don't have a lawyer. I'll call Ruby, Brandon said quietly. She'll know what to do. Ruby arrived 30 minutes later, furious. Where is that girl? Where is Crystal? We can't reach her, Brandon said. Of course you can't, because she knows she's committed fraud and she's hiding. Ruby looked at me. Max, honey, we need to get you a lawyer. Today. Right now. I just had surgery. I can barely think. I know. But if we don't move fast, you're going to lose your house permanently. She pulled out her phone and called attorney Cecilia Hamilton. Cecilia? It's Ruby Taylor. I need you. My friend Max just had her house stolen by her daughter-in-law. Yes, stolen. While Max was unconscious in surgery. Yes, I'm serious. Can you come to the hospital? Good. We're at Grady Memorial, room 412. Thank you. She hung up. Cecilia's coming. She'll be here in an hour. I lay back against the pillows, exhausted and devastated. My house. The house Jerome and I had built our life in, the house I'd raised Brandon in. Gone. Stolen by the woman I'd welcomed into our family. The woman I'd trusted. The woman my son loved. Brandon sat in the corner of the room, head in his hands. Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I swear to God, I had no idea Crystal would do this. Didn't you? You gave her the idea, the living trust. You pushed me to sign things. You made me think I needed to prepare for death. I thought I was helping. You were helping her, setting me up, making me vulnerable. That's not fair. I love you. I would never. But you did. You let her into my life. You defended her every time I had doubts. You chose her over me again and again. She's my wife. And I'm your mother, the woman who raised you alone after your father died, the woman who worked double shifts to pay for your college, the woman who gave you everything. I know. Do you? Because it doesn't feel like you know. It feels like you forgot. Brandon started crying. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I wanted to forgive him, to tell him it was okay, that we'd figure it out together. But I couldn't, because it wasn't okay. My son had betrayed me. Maybe not intentionally, maybe not maliciously, but he'd chosen Crystal, and that choice had cost me everything. Attorney Cecilia Hamilton arrived at 2 p.m. She was a black woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and an expensive suit. Mrs. Carter, I'm Cecilia Hamilton. Ruby told me what happened. I need you to tell me everything. Start from the beginning. So I did. I told her about Crystal. The questions, the suggestions, the living trust, the power of attorney. I told her about the surgery, the phone call, the realtor. Cecilia took notes, her face getting harder with each detail. This is textbook elder fraud, she said when I finished. And it's criminal, not just civil. Your daughter-in-law can go to jail for this. I don't care about jail. I want my house back. We'll get your house back, but it's going to be complicated. How complicated. The sale was recorded. That means legally, right now, the property belongs to the buyer. To reverse it, we need to prove fraud, which means proving Crystal didn't have authority to sell. But she had power of attorney. Power of attorney for medical and financial decisions, not for selling real estate. Those are two very different things. A standard power of attorney doesn't give someone the right to sell your home without explicit written consent. So, the sale is invalid? It should be. But we'll have to go to court, file an emergency motion, and we need to do it before the buyer takes possession. How long do we have? Probably less than a week, maybe less. If the buyer moves in, it becomes much harder to undo. What do I need to do? First, sign these papers. They authorize me to represent you. Second, file a police report. This is fraud, and we need it on record. Third, don't communicate with Crystal or Brandon until I tell you it's safe. Brandon? But he's my son. He's also Crystal's husband. Legally, anything you tell him can be shared with her. I need you to cut off contact until we sort this out. I looked at Brandon, who was still sitting in the corner. Mom, please, I want to help. Then tell me where Crystal is. I don't know. I swear I don't know. Then you can't help me. Cecilia stood. Mrs. Carter, I'm going to file emergency motions tonight. But I need you to rest and recover. You just had surgery. Your body needs to heal. How can I rest when someone stole my house? Because if you don't rest, you'll end up back in surgery with complications. And then Crystal wins. Don't let her win. After Cecilia left, I lay in my hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere across town, Crystal was celebrating. She'd pulled it off. Stolen my house right out from under me. But she'd made one mistake. She'd assumed I'd be too weak to fight back, too scared, too broken. She didn't know me very well. Because I'd fought my whole life. And I wasn't about to stop now. Not for Crystal. Not for anyone. My house was mine. And I was going to get it back. No matter what it took. I was discharged from the hospital 2 days after surgery. Against doctor's orders. They wanted me to stay another day, but I refused. I need to get home, I told the nurse. I need to see my house. Mrs. Carter, you need to rest. You just had major surgery. I'll rest at home. Except I couldn't go home. Because home might not be mine anymore. Ruby drove me to 1247 Peachtree Street. We pulled up to my house, the house I'd lived in for 30 years, and my stomach dropped. There was a lockbox on the front door. A Realtor's lockbox. And a sold sticker over the for sale sign I'd never authorized. Oh my God, I whispered. She really did it. Ruby squeezed my hand. Come on, let's see if your key still works. We walked up to the front door. My hands were shaking as I tried to put my key in the lock. It didn't fit. The locks had been changed. She changed my locks, I said. Crystal changed the locks on my own house. Ruby pulled out her phone. I'm calling Cecilia. Attorney Cecilia Hamilton arrived 20 minutes later with a police officer. Mrs. Carter, this is Officer Davis. He's going to help us document this. Officer Davis took photos of the lockbox, the sold sign, and me standing at my own front door, unable to get in. Ma'am, do you have proof you own this property? He asked. I have the deed. It's inside, in my filing cabinet. Inside the house you can't access. Yes. Do you have a copy anywhere else? No. Everything's inside. Cecilia spoke up. I pulled property records this morning. The deed is still in Maxine Carter's name. The sale hasn't been fully processed yet. We have a small window. How small? I asked. The buyer, Marcus Reed, is scheduled to take possession on Friday. Today is Wednesday. We have 2 days. What happens on Friday? He moves in, changes everything over to his name. At that point, even though the sale was fraudulent, it becomes much harder to reverse. So what do? We go to court, tomorrow morning, emergency hearing. We ask for a temporary restraining order to stop the transfer of possession. Will it work? It should. But we need evidence. We need to prove Crystal committed fraud. I have evidence. The power of attorney only gave her medical authority. Actually, Cecilia said carefully, I reviewed the document you signed. It's broader than you remember. My heart sank. What do you mean? It gives Crystal authority over medical and financial decisions, including all property matters. What? The document Crystal had you sign wasn't just for medical emergencies. It was a general power of attorney, very broad powers. But I thought Brandon said it was just for medical decisions. That's what they told you. But that's not what you signed. I felt sick. So Crystal had the legal right to sell my house? Not exactly. Even with power of attorney, there are limits. She can't sell your primary residence without explicit written consent. That's a protected transaction. But she can make it look legal if she lies to the right people. So what do we prove? We prove you never consented. We prove you were unconscious during the sale. We prove Crystal acted against your interests. And we prove she profited from the sale. How did she profit? The money from the sale, where did it go? That's what we need to find out. Officer Davis spoke up. Ma'am, have you checked your bank accounts? No, I've been in the hospital. You should check. Right now. Ruby pulled out her phone and helped me log into my bank account. The balance should have been around $78,000, my life savings. The balance was $3,247. Oh my God, I whispered. She took it. She took all of it. Cecilia leaned over to look. When were the withdrawals made? We scrolled through the transactions. Monday morning, the day of my surgery, $25,000 withdrawn. Monday afternoon, $30,000 withdrawn. Tuesday morning, $20,000 withdrawn. All of it transferred to an account I didn't recognize. She cleaned me out, I said. While I was in surgery, she emptied my bank account. Cecilia's jaw tightened. That's felony theft, on top of the real estate fraud. Crystal is going to prison for this. I don't care about prison. I want my money back. I want my house back. We'll get both, but first, we need to freeze everything. Stop her from moving any more money. Officer Davis started making calls. I'm going to need to bring in a detective. This is beyond basic fraud. Within an hour, Detective Morris arrived. He was an older black man with gray hair and tired eyes who'd probably seen everything. Mrs. Carter, I'm Detective Morris. I need to ask you some questions. We sat in Ruby's car. I couldn't even sit in my own house, and I told him everything. He took notes, asked questions, cross-referenced details. Do you know where Crystal Carter is right now? No, we haven't been able to reach her since the surgery. What about your son, Brandon? He's been calling me, says he doesn't know where she is. Do you believe him? I thought about that. I don't know what I believe anymore. Mrs. Carter, I need to be honest with you. Cases like this are complicated. Even with clear fraud, getting your property back quickly is difficult. Why? Because the buyer, Marcus Reed, might be innocent. If he bought the house in good faith, believing Crystal had authority to sell, then he has rights too. But it's my house. I know. But legally, if he paid fair value and didn't know about the fraud, he's a victim too. He paid $125,000 below market value. That's not fair value. That helps our case. But it's not automatic. We'll need to prove he knew or should have known something was wrong. Cecilia added, That's why the emergency hearing is so important. If we can stop possession from transferring, we can sort this out before Marcus moves in. What if the judge says no? Then we file a lawsuit. It'll take months, maybe years. And in the meantime, you'll need somewhere to live. This is my home. I'm not leaving. Mrs. Carter, right now, you can't even get inside. She was right. I was locked out of my own house. Detective Morris made some calls and arranged for a locksmith to meet us. Technically, this is still your property until Friday. You have a right to access it. The locksmith arrived and changed the locks back. I walked into my house for the first time in 3 days. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. My furniture, my photos, my life. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt violated. I walked through each room, checking. Kitchen, living room, bedrooms, bathroom. In my bedroom, I found my filing cabinet had been opened. Documents were missing. The deed, insurance policies, my will, all gone. She took everything, I said. Every important document. Cecilia was taking photos. This is good. It shows intent. She wasn't just selling the house, she was trying to erase your ownership. In the kitchen, I found a note. On my own kitchen table, in Crystal's handwriting. Max, I'm sorry it had to be this way, but you weren't thinking clearly. You're getting old and you need care. The money from the house will pay for a nice facility. Brandon and I will visit often. This is for your own good. Crystal. I read it 3 times, my hands shaking with rage. For my own good. She'd stolen my house, my money, my documents, and she thought it was for my own good. That sociopathic, Ruby started. Don't, I said. Save it. We need to focus. Cecilia photographed the note. This is evidence of her mindset. She's claiming she acted in your best interest. How is stealing my life savings in my best interest? It's not. But that's her defense. She'll claim you were incapacitated, that she had to make decisions for you. I wasn't incapacitated. I had gallstones. I know, and we'll prove that. But this is what we're up against. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, in my house that might not be my house much longer, and thought about everything I'd lost. Jerome and I had bought this house in 1995. We'd been so proud, so happy. It wasn't fancy, just a small house in East Atlanta, but it was ours. We'd painted every room together. Jerome had built the deck in the backyard. I'd planted the garden. We'd celebrated Christmases here, Brandon's birthdays, anniversaries. Jerome had died in this house, in this bed, holding my hand. And now Crystal thought she could just take it? Sell it to some developer who'd probably tear it down? Not while I was still breathing. The next morning, Ruby drove me to the courthouse. I was still recovering from surgery. My incisions hurt. I was exhausted. But I showed up, because this was my fight. The courtroom was small. Judge Thompson, a black woman in her 60s, presided. Cecilia presented our case. Your Honor, my client Maxine Carter was the victim of elder fraud committed by her daughter-in-law, Crystal Carter. She laid out the timeline. The power of attorney signed under duress. The sale conducted while I was unconscious. The cleaned-out bank account. The judge listened carefully, reviewing documents. Where is Crystal Carter? She asked. We don't know, Your Honor. She hasn't responded to any attempts at contact. And the buyer, Marcus Reed? He's here, Your Honor. Marcus Reed stood up. He was a white man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit. His lawyer spoke. Your Honor, my client purchased this property in good faith. He had no knowledge of any fraud. Mr. Reed, did you meet with Mrs. Carter before purchasing her property? No, Your Honor. I dealt exclusively with Crystal Carter, who presented power of attorney documents. Did you think it was unusual that Mrs. Carter wasn't present? Crystal explained that Mrs. Carter was elderly and ill, that she'd authorized Crystal to handle the sale. And you accepted that explanation? Yes, Your Honor. Crystal is a licensed real estate agent. I had no reason to doubt her. Judge Thompson turned to me. Mrs. Carter, can you tell me in your own words what happened? I stood up slowly, my incisions aching. Your Honor, I worked 40 years as a nurse. I saved every penny to buy this house with my late husband. When he died, I promised myself I'd never let it go. My daughter-in-law, Crystal, has been trying to get me to sell for years. I always refused. But when I needed emergency surgery, my son convinced me to give her temporary power of attorney. Just for medical decisions, I thought. While I was unconscious on the operating table, Crystal sold my house for $125,000 below market value. She emptied my bank account. She stole my documents. And she left me a note saying it was for my own good. Your Honor, that house is all I have. It's my home, my memories, my husband's legacy. And I'm begging you not to let her take it. My voice broke. I started crying. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm granting a temporary restraining order. The transfer of possession is stayed pending further investigation. Mrs. Carter, you will retain access to your home. Mr. Reed, you will not take possession until this matter is resolved. Marcus Reed's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client has already paid. Your client paid for property that may have been fraudulently sold. He can sue Crystal Carter for his money back. But Mrs. Carter is not leaving her home. The gavel came down. I nearly collapsed with relief. Ruby caught me. "You did it, Max. You kept your house." "For now," Cecilia said. "This is just temporary. We still have a long fight ahead." But I didn't care. For now, my house was still mine. Outside the courtroom, Marcus Reed approached me. "Mrs. Carter, I want to apologize. I had no idea this was fraud. Crystal seemed so professional, so legitimate. You paid $125,000 below market value. That didn't seem suspicious. She said you were motivated to sell quickly, that you needed the money for medical care. Did you ever question it? Ever think to verify?" He looked at the ground. "No. And I should have. I'm sorry." "You're not the one who should be apologizing. Crystal is. Where is she?" "I don't know. I've been trying to reach her too. She's not answering my calls either." "If you find her," I said, "you tell her this isn't over, not by a long shot." Detective Morris called that afternoon. "Mrs. Carter, we've located Crystal Carter. She's been staying at a hotel downtown. We're bringing her in for questioning. Can I be there?" "No, but I'll call you after we talk to her." 3 hours later, he called back. "Mrs. Carter, I've got good news and bad news." "Tell me." "Good news, Crystal confessed to everything. The fraudulent sale, the stolen money, all of it." "And the bad news?" "The money's gone. She spent $50,000 buying a new car. Put $25,000 down on a condo in her name only, not Brandon's. The rest she transferred to an offshore account. Can we get it back? We're trying, but international banking laws are complicated. It might take months." "What about the house sale? Can we reverse it?" "Yes. With her confession, we can void the sale completely. Marcus Reed will get his earnest money back, and the house stays yours." I sat down, overwhelmed with relief. "So it's over?" "Not quite. We still need to formally charge Crystal, and there'll be a trial. But yes, you're keeping your house." "What about Brandon? Is he involved?" Detective Morris hesitated. "We don't think so. It appears Crystal acted alone. Brandon was manipulated just like you." I didn't know how to feel about that. My son had been fooled by the woman he loved. Did that excuse his role in this? That night, Brandon showed up at my door. "Mom, can we talk?" I let him in. We sat in the living room, my living room, in my house that was definitely still mine. "Crystal's been arrested," he said. "I know." "I didn't know, Mom. I swear to God, I didn't know what she was planning. But you helped her. The power of attorney. The pressure to prepare for the future. All of it. I thought I was helping you. You were helping her manipulate me. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Are you? Or are you sorry you got caught?" "That's not fair." "Fair? Brandon, your wife tried to steal my house. She emptied my bank account. She left me homeless while I was recovering from surgery. I know, and I'm filing for divorce. I'm done with her. Because she got caught. If she'd gotten away with it, would you be done? Or would you be helping her spend my money?" Brandon started crying. "How can you think that? I'm your son. You're also her husband, and for 3 years you chose her over me every single time." "I love you, Mom. I know you do, but love isn't enough when you don't protect the people you love. What do you want me to do?" "I want you to testify against Crystal. I want you to tell the truth about how she manipulated both of us. And then I want you to give me space while I figure out if I can trust you again." Brandon nodded, wiping his tears. "Okay, I'll do whatever it takes." "Good. Now go home. I need to rest." After he left, I sat in my house, and felt the weight of everything. I'd won. I'd kept my home. Crystal would face justice. But the cost was high. My relationship with my son was damaged, maybe beyond repair. My bank account was empty. My trust in people was shattered. But I was still here. In my house, alive and fighting. And that was something. That was everything. Crystal's trial was set for 3 months later. Life slowly returned to normal. Marcus Reed dropped his claim. I should have done due diligence. I got greedy. We both got taken advantage of, At least you get your money back. Ruby came over daily those first weeks. How are you really doing? I'm okay. You're not okay. She was right. I jumped when the phone rang, checked my bank obsessively, had nightmares. You should talk to someone, a therapist. Eventually, I took Ruby's advice, started seeing Dr. Reynolds. What Crystal did was a profound violation. She stole your sense of safety during your most vulnerable moment. But I got the house back. Why do I still feel this way? Because trauma isn't logical. That kind of betrayal leaves marks. Over months, I started healing. Changed everything that reminded me of Crystal. New curtains, new dishes, rearranged furniture. Brandon called weekly. I didn't always answer. How are you, Mom? Fine. Can we really talk? I'm not ready yet. When will you be ready? I don't know. 2 weeks before trial, Cecilia called. Crystal's lawyer made an offer. Plead guilty to reduce charges, avoid jail time. What? No, she's going to jail. Max, hear me out. If she pleads guilty, she gets a criminal record, loses her real estate license, never works again. But no jail. Probation, house arrest, and required restitution. She spent all my money. She has assets, the car, the condo down payment. We can force her to liquidate and pay you back. And if we go to trial? 5 to 10 years prison. But restitution isn't guaranteed. I thought about it. I want my money back, and I want her to admit in court what she did. Done. The plea hearing was Tuesday morning. I arrived with Ruby, Cecilia, and Detective Morris. Brandon was there too. Unexpected. Mom, I wanted to support you. Okay. We sat on opposite sides. Him alone. Me with my people. Crystal was brought in wearing orange. She looked smaller, diminished. When she saw me, she looked away. Judge Thompson entered. Ms. Carter, you've agreed to plead guilty to felony fraud and elder abuse? Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand you're admitting you committed these crimes? Yes, Your Honor. Sentenced to 3 years probation, 6 months house arrest, and full restitution to Mrs. Carter? Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Carter, would you like to make a statement? I stood. Your Honor, I'd like Crystal to explain why she did this. Judge Thompson looked at Crystal. Miss Carter, why did you defraud Mrs. Carter? Crystal cried. I thought I was helping. She's getting old. I thought she couldn't handle it anymore. So you admit you sold her house without consent? Yes, but I was going to use the money for her care. You bought yourself a car, I interrupted. Put a down payment on a condo in your name. Transferred money offshore. None of that was for my care. Crystal looked at me. I'm sorry, Max. You're sorry you got caught. No, I'm sorry I hurt you. But you did. You waited until I was unconscious and stole everything. I know, and I'll regret it forever. Will you? Or will you regret not getting away with it? No answer. Judge Thompson accepted the guilty plea. 3 years probation, 6 months house arrest, full restitution, 200 hours community service, mandatory counseling. The gavel came down. Over. Outside, Brandon approached. Mom, can we talk now? We went to a coffee shop, sat like strangers. I filed for divorce, testified against her. What else do I need to do for you to forgive me? I don't know if I can forgive you, Brandon. Please, I made a mistake. I was stupid. But I love you. Love isn't enough when you don't protect the people you love. I'll do better. Just give me another chance. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Okay. One more chance. But Brandon, if you ever put someone else above me again when I need you, we're done. I understand. Thank you, Mom. We hugged. Awkward at first. But maybe, someday, we'd be okay. 6 months later, Crystal sold the car and got back the condo down payment. With the offshore account Detective Morris froze, I got back $68,000 of $78,000. Not everything, but enough. My house was still mine. Deed in my name. Locks changed. Slowly, it felt like home again. Ruby came over one Sunday. Coffee on my back porch. You seem better. I am better. I'm healing. You deserve peace. Brandon visited every other week. We were rebuilding, slowly. He'd moved to a small apartment, started therapy, working on himself. I'm going to be better, Mom. Good. Take your time. One Saturday morning in my garden, my phone rang. Mrs. Carter, Tom Bennett, the realtor who called during your surgery? I remember. I wanted to apologize again and tell you something. I reported Crystal to the licensing board. They permanently revoked her license. Good. What you did took courage. A lot of people would have given up. Giving up wasn't an option. That house is everything. After we hung up, I sat in my garden thinking. Crystal had tried to take my house, my money, my safety, but she hadn't taken my spirit, my fight. I was still here, in my home, on my land, and I was staying here, as long as I could, because this wasn't just a house. It was my history, my memories, my legacy, and nobody was going to take that from me. I'm Maxine Carter. I'm 62 years old. My daughter-in-law sold my house while I was in surgery. She emptied my bank account, changed my locks, tried to steal my life, but I fought back. I got my house back, most of my money back, my dignity back. It cost me my relationship with my son for a while, my sense of security, my peace. But I survived. And sometimes survival is enough. Sometimes it's everything. I walked into my house, mine, forever.